please join us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Marianne Rosa,
Here.
Ken Demers,
Here.
Robert DeCina,
Here.
Anthony DeBona, Gary Lafferty,
Here.
Karina Noyd,
Here.
Jonathan Ramsey,
Here.
Robert Ritale,
Here.
and Rachel Ryan.
Here.
Did you get Anthony's present? He was supposed to be.
Did I miss it?
He's not there? Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is public comment. Anyone that would like to address the council, please come forward.
Should I go ahead?
Sure.
Okay. Krista Palumba, Chair, Board of Education, 480 Echo Lake Road, Watertown, Connecticut. Myself and members of the Board of Education are here to read clarifying letters to the Town Council and Town Manager regarding the Health Fund and the status of the parochial school nurse. We feel it was necessary for us to read the letters into record, as we have sent previous letters to the Town Council and Town Manager that could clarify our stance to the community, and they were not read into record, which the Town Council has every right to do. Regarding the Health Fund clarification memo dated June 26, 2024, we write on behalf of the Watertown Board of Education in response to the clarification memo dated June 26, 2024, regarding the joint town BOE Health Fund and past practice. In this memo, you attempt to clarify the recent motion of the Town Council in which it appropriates $411,000 from the town's general fund to the Health Fund, jointly held by the town and the board. Despite the town's claims, the board disputes any claim, assertion, or insinuation that the board underfunded the Health Fund. The board's records indicate that the board has already paid the town its share of health insurance costs for the previous fiscal year through June 30th, 2024. Given that the Board of Education has fully met its obligation to the town, we believe a more transparent communication on part of the town is necessary. To be clear, at no time did the board seek to supplement the appropriation from the town to cover any insurance-related costs, as the deficit to the fund is not attributable to the board in any way. Your motion insinuates that the deficit is partly attributable to the board, which is deliberately misleading. We would like to reiterate that the Board of Education has met its insurance obligation and keeps a close eye if and when we anticipate that we may not. We remain committed to partnering with the town and providing health insurance benefits to town and board employees. However, for the board to do so, fundamental changes in the administration of the health insurance fund are imperative, including complete transparency regarding the respective obligations and contributions of the town and the Board of Education and the status of the Health Insurance Reserve Fund. Further, as stated in previous communication, the establishment of a memorandum of understanding between the parties to specify protocols and procedures and how the fund will be governed and administered going forward is critical. We look forward to coming to agreements on the Memorandum of Understanding soon. Sincerely, members of the Board of Education and Superintendent of Schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Karen Hosking, 106 Porter Street, Watertown. Dear members of the Town Council and Town Manager, I just wanted to reiterate to you how the breakdown of nurses in all of our schools is currently at John Trumbull, as well as the Just Friends Pre-K, Cub Den, Tiger Den, and special ed programs. The number of nurses is 2, and there are 653 students. At Judson Elementary School, as well as the Aspire Autism Program, the number of nurses is 1, and there are approximately 300 students. At Polk Elementary School, as well as the RISE Intensive Special Education Program. The nurse number is 1, and the student population is 312. At Swift Middle School, as well as the Wings and Life Skills Special Education Program, there are 2 nurses, and the number of students is 590. At Watertown High School and the PATH Life Skills and Special Ed Program, there are 2 nurses, and the number of students is approximately 715. Watertown Transition Academy and the WTA2, which will be the Life Skills and Autism Program expansion, as well as the alternative program, is 12 students, and they're serviced by Watertown High School nurses. St. Mary Magdalene School, 1 nurse with 190 students, and St. John's the Evangelist School, 1 nurse at 160 students. We write on behalf of the Board of Education to provide transparent and clear information about school nurses in the public and private schools. As the statute states, Connecticut General Statutes 10-217A sets forth the requirements for provision of health services for children in nonprofit private schools. Specifically, each town which provides health services for children attending its public schools in any grade from kindergarten to 12th inclusive shall provide the same health services for students, or for children, in grades attending private nonprofit schools therein when a majority of the children attending such schools are residents of the state of Connecticut. And again, that's Connecticut General Statute 10-217A. The statutory requirement imposed upon the town, however, as school districts provide nursing services to students enrolled in public schools, many municipalities fulfill these duties through the relevant Board of Education. As the statute states, it is a town's obligation by statute to provide nursing services to parochial schools, and it is often achieved by utilizing public school nursing staff. When public school funding is reduced before it even goes out to the public for vote at the time of referendum, priorities must be weighed in order for operations to move forward without decimating the educational program and services provided to students and families of Watertown Oakville. And you'll see next to St. Mary Magdalene School and St. John the Evangelist School, there's a little box to the right, and it shows .5 and .5, which is the proposed way that nurse would be covered. Thank you.
Good evening, Christine Foressa, 24 Kimberly Lane, Watertown Board of Education Secretary. To continue, the Board of Education stands firmly in advocating for the town of Watertown to adequately fund the Board of Education through the annual budget process so that programs and services are not put in peril of being reduced, delayed, or eliminated. Because of this, on May 1st, 2024, the superintendent met with members of the Archdiocese and the town manager as a representative of the town council to determine a way for the town to take on the salary of a school nurse in an attempt to help keep the nursing staff at the 2 parochial schools whole. It seemed promising when it was added to the May 20th, 2024 agenda as item E, but at that meeting it was tabled, which came as a surprise to those sitting in the audience. A consistent level of fiscally responsible funding for schools demonstrates a town that supports the services it provides its constituents. We also understand that budget decisions are made, and we need to respond reasonably and logically to move forward for the families and students of Watertown. To make absolutely clear, the Watertown Public Schools continues to provide nursing services to both St. Mary's and St. John's parochial schools, just as the district provides nursing services to each of the 5 public schools, along with Special Education Transition Academy program at the Seaman Building. We are bound to special education law when nursing services are part of a student's individual education plan. And we provide nursing services to not only provide these services to our students, but also to mitigate and limit any legal exposure to the Board of Ed and town. Regardless of the outcome of this unfortunate situation, sufficient nursing services will be provided as the Board of Education recognizes the vital and statutory obligation we have to provide to all of our students, whether public or parochial. Since the town has officially decided not to add school nurses to any upcoming agendas as an item to take on the salary of one nurse, in order to maintain a 1.0 full-time nurse at each St. Mary's and St. John schools for this coming 2024-2025 academic year, the Watertown Public Schools will redistribute the duties of multiple nurses, including the 2 nurses that serve both St. Mary Magdalene and St. John the Evangelist, and this is in accordance with the logical and recommended operational practices by the Connecticut State Department of Education in determining the amount of nursing services that are on a case-by-case analysis, which includes a comparison of the number of students being served. Annually, prior to the start of each school year, all schools across the community undergo an analysis to review student health records and related needs of students in both the public and private schools. This determines the scope of health services that are expected in the coming year, student enrollment, and resources available. This determines the best course of action forward in scheduling our nursing staff.
Good evening. Kathy Hillian, Town Road, Board of Ed member. To continue, based on this analysis for the coming 24-25 academic year, since the 0.5 reduction remains at St. Mary's and St. John's School, and in order to provide services to a growing number of students in need of medical oversight across the district, the schedules of the 2 nurses at St. Mary's and St. John's and Watertown High School will now include an additional location of service, the Watertown Tradition Academy, and its expansion. This means they will service an additional location in addition to their parochial schools in response to our nursing needs. And again, we would like to reiterate, St. Mary's and St. John's School will continue to receive nursing services every day on a new rotation schedule. We invite members of the Town Council to visit all of our schools, including St. Mary's and St. John's, to see our nurses in action and their extremely busy and integral roles in serving our community. On average, in a busy public school with 2 nurses serving more than 650 students in the span of the 6.5-hour school day, they can see upwards of 65 to 90 students a day, ranging from a simple cut or bruise to administering diabetic protocols and medication, or something as complicated as changing out feeding tubes for nonverbal, non-mobile students who are intubated. Once again, we advocate for the recommended Board of Education budget to be put to vote so community members can vote on it before substantial reductions, like the $800,000 reduction this year, are made. Thank you, members of the Watertown Board of Ed and Superintendent of Schools.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Goddard. I am the principal of Holy Disciples Catholic School, formerly St. John Middle School. I'm speaking on behalf of Mrs. Mulhall, who is the principal of Holy Disciples Elementary School, formerly St. Mary Magdalene. Mrs. Mulhall has been a resident of Watertown for 31 years. We are aware of the current budget issues and the cuts that are being discussed. These cuts, we're told, would remove a full-time school nurse from both of our campus locations. This would be disastrous to our school community. School nurses provide so much more to our schools apart from caring for everyday scrapes and colds. They're an integral part of the school community and provide assistance to students with chronic illnesses. We currently have students with chronic health conditions, including diabetes, cystic fibrosis, seizure disorders, and anxiety, to name a few. School nurses provide assessment for injuries and illnesses and also mental health challenges. They are vital to the health and safety of our students and staff. We have always enjoyed a good working relationship with the local government and the school system. Most of our students reside in Oakville and Watertown and deserve a full-time nurse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marissa Stankus, 88 Bayview Circle, mother of 3 children who attend Holy Disciples Catholic Elementary and Middle School. My oldest daughter is 10. She is a type 1 diabetic and uses nursing services every day. I don't know what will happen when a nurse is at Holy Disciples Elementary School and she is at Holy Disciples Middle School if something happens to her and her blood sugar goes critically low. I watch her blood sugar every 5 minutes. I am addicted. Her blood sugar right now is 78 arrow down, meaning she is dropping low, fast. My husband is home with her and will take care of it. But if this happens at school, who's going to take care of it? I mean, she knows she's going low, But if she goes too low, she could have a seizure and she could ultimately die. Her medication, her emergency rescue medication, is at school in the nurse's office. Who is going to administer that to her? Yes, you can call 911 and an ambulance can come, but that's 10 minutes away when someone could just go and give it and shoot it up her nose and save her life. My other daughter is in the elementary school. She has severe anxiety with debilitating panic attacks. Yes, she gets over them, but what is she supposed to do? Sit in the classroom that caused the anxiety in the first place? I don't want to pick her up from school when I know she's going to be better a half an hour from now. My son is in pre-K. He's fine, he has no medical issues, but I know we've had febrile seizures in school before. A nurse can handle that situation and call 911 and remove the child from the classroom if need be. I'm just concerned that sufficient nursing services will take a nurse away from one of my children who go to each school. Because if there's no one there when there's an emergency, if there's anaphylaxis, who's giving the EpiPen? Do we have to wait 10 minutes for the ambulance to do that? An asthma attack, same thing. Those are my concerns.
Thank you.
Susan Atkins, 1521 Litchfield Road. I am the board chair of Holy Disciples Catholic this year. And I don't have anything written, but I will state two facts that I know. I was at the school at St. John's actually one day, and the nurse was in the office and she's on her cell phone and, just looking at it. And I'm thinking to myself, is there an emergency at home? Why is she on her cell phone? And so I said, is everything okay? And she said, yeah, so-and-so's sugar level is off. Lunch isn't for another half hour, and then she has recess and gym, and then she's going to basketball practice. I have to monitor her. And that was the first time I was ever exposed to anything like that, but it's really pretty simple. And the nurses do a lot more, and as we all know, than put a Band-Aid on or take care of a minor issue. So that's one thing. And the other thing I was thinking of for this evening, I'm also a trustee on the Watertown Foundation, and I have been in that position for about 20 years now. And when I was first asked to join, I was put on the grants committee, which I still serve on. And my mentors were Dick Pizzuto and Henry Long, and I think most of us in this room remember who Henry Long was. He was quite a character, pretty outspoken, but had a lot of common sense. So when grants would come up, and I remember my first meeting, we'd be given our packet of grants to study. We'd go to the meeting and we would discuss them. And if it was something for Little League or Boy Scouts or any organization dealing with children, Dick Pizzuto would simply say, give it to the kids. When the grant came up for St. Mary Magdalene that year, we all discussed it, and I have always been associated with St. Mary Magdalene School, and so I didn't say anything, but I listened, and Henry Long finally said, give them whatever they want. Do you know how much money they save our town by educating our children? Do you know that the Catholics should run all of our schools because they do things in the right way? They involve parents in every aspect of the school. They're there as volunteers. If the hallway needs to be painted, they're there painting the hallway. They do whatever. And some of you on this board have been in that position. So think of it in that way too, in a very practical perspective. We don't ask much from the town. We've always been good neighbors, and you've been good to us, and we certainly appreciate it as the Board of Education. But we take care of a lot of children in this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Christina Lapica. I'm the president of the Home and School Association for Holy Disciples Catholic School, which is both campuses. And I just wanted to relay some some numbers to you guys, because unfortunately, with the uncertainty of the nursing situation, many of our families have conveyed their concerns and intentions to potentially return to the public school sector. And at present, we educate over 150 Watertown and Oakville residents. So going by the public record of what it costs to educate a child, if for some reason we lost even half a dozen students back into public school, that would result in roughly greater than $60,000, which is the equivalent of the nurse's salary that's in contention. And in the interest of everyone benefiting from the circumstances, understanding that there are things that have to happen with budgetary rules and regulations, I would just like to request and urge respectfully that you guys take the moment to consider working together to find a resolution here so that we can maintain our doors open to continue to benefit the town of Watertown by providing education for this many students, over 150. I think it's actually closer to 200, which unfortunately, if our doors were to close tomorrow, would result in over $2 million back into the public education sector. That would have to be balanced. So with respect, we appreciate your consideration and your time. We want what's best for the students, and we would really like to maintain our current situation so that there's no liability and legality and any children that remain injured, hurt, or uncared for in the absence of a full-time nurse. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Catherine Dinsmore, 35 Reynolds Street. To this day, our senior citizens regard me as an advocate for the town's elderly and contact me for advice, resources, or to talk about their concerns. I generally respond to these callers by suggesting they contact those in charge at the senior center and then go further up the chain of command if necessary. The response I get when I suggest this is they are afraid to voice a complaint or a concern. I don't know if their fears are valid. Just before the 4th of July holiday, I received calls from seniors who were upset because the senior center was scheduled to be closed on Friday, January 5th, in addition to the Thursday, July 4th designated holiday. While I do not know the true reason why the center was closed on July 5th, it appeared to these seniors that the intent was to give senior center employees a 4-day weekend. Unfortunately, that sends the message that giving all 6 employees a 4-day weekend is more important than providing services, including transportation, to seniors on a normal business day. Although the Friday closure was announced shortly before the holiday, it is unprecedented and inappropriate for town offices to close operations when the town is open for business. Would the tax office, the town clerk's office, or public works close because all of those departments' employees wanted to have a 4-day weekend? The Parks and Recreation Office, of which the senior center is a part, didn't shut down for a 4-day weekend. No other office in this town has ever been allowed to have every one of its employees take the same day off, resulting in loss of expected services to residents. If there truly was a valid reason why all 6 senior center employees needed or wanted to be absent on July 5th, Parks and Rec might have considered loaning one of its staff members to keep the center open, even if just as a cooling center on these hot and humid days. In support of the seniors who contacted me, I hope the town will not continue this highly unusual practice of closing the senior center on a normal business day when there are plenty of employees there to keep it open. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
First, I would just like to say that I support everything that was said by the people from the Board of Education. I can't really fathom why that position was cut, those positions. They're very important. As you know, each year, the town attorney prepares a summary of pending litigation for the audit. I've received a copy of that correspondence for the past 3 or 4 years, and I was very surprised when I received the one submitted in May of this year. The town has been served with 3 complaints involving the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities. This is the first time I have ever seen such a complaint filed, but it shows that not 1 and not 2, but 3 such complaints were filed within 1 year. I think that's an extraordinary number. Clearly, we have a problem with the administration of our town. Even if any of these complaints gets dismissed, the fact that a person filed points to a vulnerability. Are they all against the same employee or the same department? What do they allege? Sex, age, race, disability, religious discrimination? Are they the result of terminations or failures to get promotions? Until the complaints are dismissed or resolved, the public cannot ascertain that information, but the town administration and the town attorney are aware, and you should be as well. I have to guess that the amount of our insurance deductible is likely $50,000 per matter. So these 3 complaints will cost the taxpayers $150,000. What is being done to prevent more of these complaints being filed? Is there a plan in place to assure that supervisors are trained properly? Will a subcommittee be formed to look into this issue? Or will our Human Resources Director provide the council with a report? Upon his hiring, Mark Ramo instituted a mission statement that says, Watertown strives to be Litchfield County's most citizen, employee-centric town where citizens' employees are valued. That does not align with the fact that we have a whopping 3 Commission on Human Rights and Opportunity complaints pending. Since the taxpayers are burdened with the cost of the insurance deductible for defending these, I request that the council ensure that steps be taken immediately to see that everything possible is done to prevent any additional complaints being filed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Richard Rosansky, 35 Reynolds Street. On tonight's agenda is appointment of an auditor for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. If you recall, in May of this year, we had extensive discussions regarding our auditor, King & King. One person who contributed greatly to the discussion was Watertown resident Elio Longo, who happens to be Chief Financial Officer for the Westport, Connecticut school system. Mr. Longo reviewed past town audits and financial reports, identified deficiencies in Watertown's financial system, such as tens of thousands of dollars sitting in dormant capital accounts, analyzed King & King's shortcomings, particularly in regards to management letters, and finally made recommendations on the selection process for a new auditor. One of Mr. Longo's suggestions regarded the submittal of a management letter with the completed audit report. While an audit report shows that the town's financial statements are fairly represented, it will not show or discuss internal control weaknesses or operating inefficiencies. For example, if an auditor requests objective evidence to support a particular ledger entry, and the town needs 3 days to locate that evidence due to poor or inefficient processes, the deficiency will not be discussed in the audit report. Rather, it'll only appear in a management report if one is requested. Upon receipt of the management letter, financial officials should respond to each comment, work with the auditor to uncover the root cause of each deficiency, and then develop a corrective action plan for each item. This is the basis for continuous improvement in our financial processes. The management letter should not be viewed in a negative sense, such as a failing grade in school, but rather as an opportunity for improvement of our financial collection and reporting systems. It appears that the town has proposed Cinnamon & Associates LLC as our new auditors. Cinnamon Associates currently audits 9 towns and 13 other municipal entities. In reviewing Cinnamon's submittals on the Connecticut Office of Policy and Management electronic audit reporting system, I find that Cinnamon has never submitted a management letter for any of the 9 towns or 13 entities that they have audited. Does this mean that no deficiencies were ever found in any of these organizations that they audited? Most likely not. The deficiencies just aren't being documented. This may or may not be the desire of the organization being audited. However, without a management letter, the organization being audited receives no record of the deficiencies found and therefore has no incentive to improve their financial systems. Not only that, other than the financial staff, the town's management and citizens are never informed of any deficiencies or inefficiencies found in their financial system. I hope you will remember the past financial troubles in Winstead and Plymouth. Is this the type of auditor Watertown desires? I don't think so. Are we afraid to have an independent auditor formally document any deficiencies found during an audit in a management letter? I certainly hope not. Do we not have talented people on our staff able to determine root cause and implement corrective actions to improve our financial processes? I think we do. There are at least a dozen other accounting firms auditing municipalities that provide management letters along with their audits. I recommend that the selection committee review these management letters on the OPM website. They do vary greatly in quality, however. I believe that the town should select an auditing firm that will perform a thorough and searching audit, documenting all deficiencies and inefficiencies in a comprehensive management letter to the town, to be subsequently addressed with formal corrective action plans. This will demonstrate that the finance department is dedicated to continuous improvement in its financial reporting processes. I ask that the town council vote no in the selection of Cinnamon Associates as town auditor and select an auditor that will provide a robust audit accompanied by a management letter. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council this evening?
Good evening. My name is Joanne Chapin, Ann Avenue, Oakville. I don't believe what was just said about the senior center having an extra day off is a problem. Not all seniors dislike the fact that we have a day off extra because they all have things to do. We have lost a lot of seniors, but I think the new director treats everyone with good attitude, very pleasant, and I don't think she should be condemned, or the employees working with her having an extra day off.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes. My name is Betty Chenard. I live at 17 Nielsen Avenue in Oakville, and I want to say that the Park and Rec never helped Laura out when her staff was out and the senior center had to close because nobody would come and help. That is not true. She needs more help. We need more people there. So taking a day off, she should not be condemned for it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Catherine Kamera, 31 Cottage Place. I just want to say that based on what Richard Rosansky just said, I would also encourage you to vote no and look a little further into this issue with the auditors. I mean, we had King and King was in, then they put the resignation letter. We really need to get something good here. I would suggest you go back to, I don't know if anybody if they applied for it or bid for it, but we had some really good auditors in the past that only had 1 year, and then they did one of these letters, and then they were gone. Why don't you bring one of them back? They were doing the letter, the management report, so I hope you really will look further into that. I don't see if there's any urgency that maybe you could table it. I don't see why you would have to vote on this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public participation. I don't believe we have any recognition tonight, correct? Motion for the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of the June 24th, 2024 special meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anyone have any corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Abstain.
We have one abstention. Under the chairman's report, we had a letter of resignation from Nancy Kinsella as a member of the Historic District Commission. It was dated June 18th, 2024, and it's because she's moving out of the district. We also had a letter from Ron Stepanek, who is Don Stepanek's son, suggesting that we honor his father by naming one of our parks after Don. Town manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Just quickly, we went through a reaffirmation of our AA rating with a stable outlook through Standard & Poor's. Tomorrow we're going to go out to bond to finish up taking our bands, turning them into bonds, and finishing up the bonding request that we've had in 2022. I will be preparing a report for the town council for late August, early September to talk about our debt service. At that point, I will bring in Barry Barnaby, who is our bond agent, to kind of talk through the availability of bonding monies and some of the projects that we could possibly go after. And just to bring up a little update into the amount of rain that we've been receiving. I know we've all heard this from Mr. Lukowski, but really we're ending up with a lot of complaints through our residents due to the actual rain that we're receiving. We're having damages created by the rain. The rain is wreaking havoc on the systems that have been in place for so long, and they're just rotting out. We're ending up with sinkholes all over town. Highway, we're very thankful that they're working hard to fix those items, but we can't just get to them as quickly as we'd like to. And just to respond to a few of the items that were mentioned in public participation, number one, there are not 3 CHRO complaints for the town of Watertown. If there are, I'm not aware of it. We have 1 CHRO complaint. Our insurance contribution is not $50,000, it's $25,000. The senior center was closed on July 5th, but Park and Rec did make arrangements to have access for rides for individuals. The only thing we did not have was programs, so those were handled. And I will give you a little more comment on our auditor as we get to that on the line item for the agenda.
Okay.
Through the chair, may I ask a question of the town manager? Mark, could you give us an update on the financial review form that we approved at a meeting a few weeks or maybe a month or so ago?
Yes, I was going to reserve some of that comment when we talk about the auditor, but Watertown, our finance department, is not afraid of a managerial letter. A managerial letter is not requested by the town. It's an acknowledgement of the auditor on their findings for the town. And we would embrace any comment for us to ensure that our controls are appropriate. We're not afraid of that. Part of the program with CLA, which is the accounting firm that we're going to use, I've been in negotiation trying to come to agreement on the language that is being used. It went through our through review of our town attorney, and he made some suggestions, and we're just going back and forth. I'm expecting to have that language corrected this week. We will sign on with that person, and they will start the job within 2 weeks. So I'm expecting that we will go through that whole process, and early fall, we would get a report back, almost in conjunction, the work that we'll be doing with the new auditor.
Great, thank you.
You're
We're on to new business.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion. I move to take from the table and add to the agenda an item that will consider setting a special town meeting to be held in July of 2024 or at another appropriate date to authorize an appropriation from the general fund in the amount of $58,750 to cover the costs of school nursing services in Watertown parochial schools, which was removed from the school fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
Is there
second.
We have a motion and a second. I think we would need the town attorney to tell us if we can have a town meeting for that amount of money before we can schedule it.
My motion was to add it to the agenda, so do we need to take a vote on that?
Yeah, but your motion was to set a town meeting. If we could say that we're going to have a town meeting when we're not allowed to have one for that kind of money. Is
This was the original motion,
$50,000 that
so-
we have to have the town meeting?
Yes, or anything over $50,000, we'd have to have a town meeting.
I read the original motion that was tabled, so my motion was to
Okay.
take it off the table and put it on this agenda.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Anybody want to address it?
I'd like to address it. I don't think it's appropriate for us to be doing this. I think that we gave the Board of Education the amount of money to manage the Board of Education. I believe it's up to the superintendent of schools to take that money that we gave her and spread the monies out so she could cover these school nurses. If she can't find $55,000 in close to a $60 million budget, then something's wrong on that side. There's other areas within her budget that she should be able to cut or reduce to be able to make up that $58,000. I think we did our portion by bringing it to the townspeople, and the townspeople voted the budget in. Going back now and adding $58,000 to me, is an easy way out, and I don't think it should be brought up.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair, I'd like to follow it up. I'd like to remind the town and put it on the record that the town council majority voted to remove $800,000 in the budget. I move to replace that money in the budget and allow that budget to go to referendum for the voters to vote. However, that motion was defeated and $800,000 was cut from the budget, which meant that the superintendent had to make very difficult decisions because she has a zero-based budget. And we've heard repeatedly at the town meeting where everybody except for one member of the town voted in favor of the school board budget as presented by the superintendent. And we've had at least 3 meetings where members of the public, parents, school administrators, people have come and spoken highly in favor of this motion. And in the grand scheme of the entire town budget and what we have in our general fund, $54,000 is a drop in the bucket.
Through the chair. I'm not against the private schools having one full-time nurse at each location. I do have lots of questions on how it should be paid and who should be paying it. I also have a lot of questions related to other services that the town provides the private schools, either through the town side of the budget and or the Board of Ed budget. I think it would be best to have that discussion with a lot of the members of the public that left the meeting, both the Board of Ed and the private schools. I don't think we're at a point where we want to vote to send it to a public meeting. I think there needs to be some more discussion related to it in advance.
Anybody else? I worked in one of the schools for a long time, many, many years. I saw how vital the nurses are. I'm a member of Holy Disciples Parish, and obviously I support, whenever I can, anything that they need. But I also was a member of the Board of Ed for 16 years. And I know how hard it is to make a cut the size that we made. But I also know that you have to set priorities. And one of the priorities maybe should be nurses at the schools and not try and push it back on the town. There are conferences, there are meetings, there's money in the Board of Ed budget that could be reallocated. And I don't think it's fair that they're making the town feel responsible because there are not nurses full-time in those buildings. I don't believe we should go back for a public meeting on something that's already been voted on. So I will not support the motion.
Through the chair,
Yes.
I would just like to add a brief comment. The town did cut $800,000 from a zero-based Board of Education budget. For that reason, I understand we're not voting on it, but I wish we would. I think it's the right thing to do.
Through the chair, one more point. We did cut $800,000, but we also gave them, I believe, $1.3 million ahead of what they had last year. And yes, that covers raises for the employees that are contractual. And we also cut $800,000 from the town side.
And we also got very high tax bills recently. Are we ready for the vote?
I just want to, through the chair, I'd just like to add something. I'm doing the math here. So there's 350 students in those two schools, and we're short, I don't know, I heard 58, 54, 53, I'm not sure what it is.
58.
58. So we're short 58, right? So divided by 350 students, I think that's $166 per student. I put my daughter through St. Mary Magdalene, and we had issues back in the early 2000s, and when there was an issue like this, we addressed it. Thank you.
Through the chair,
Yes.
this proposal is only for 1 year, and I would argue that we will have another budget process next year, and the schools, the parochial schools in town, knowing that this could be the way it's going to be in the future, would have time to make the plans. However, it's apparent that they don't really have time to make the plans at this point in terms of raising the funds and finding the nursing staff. So I would argue that a town meeting is important to answer those questions, ask the questions, get the questions answered, and do it sooner rather than later, because as one member of the town pointed out, that some of these families may be required because of their children's medical conditions to move into the public school system. But this would just be a one-time support for the parochial schools going forward. It's only for 1 year.
Good, Chair. Back to my previous comment about further discussion. One of my concerns is the Board of Ed is, I would say, kind of shifting responsibility from what in the past they've covered to wanting the town side of the budget to cover. And the concern I have goes back to what other services might they try doing that in the future. My understanding is the town does provide other services to the private schools. I don't know the details of what they include in the dollar amount offhand, but I think we need to have that discussion on the funding of all those services. Because if they start reducing to the minimum, what does that mean both for the town as a whole and the private schools? But I have a feeling that we do this once without that discussion. Next year, it's going to be that plus something else, and then it's just shifting funds from one pocket to another. And that's why I think we need more information and more discussion beforehand.
All those in favor of the motion to add the approving? to add it to the agenda, please say aye.
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 And I assume that's item H, right? Okay. Under
Yes,
new-
be item H.
Under new business?
Did it
Pass.
We only did the ayes.
To the agenda, that's all.
Yeah, well, we never got.
We don't got
I'm
to say
sorry.
no.
All those in favor of adding it to the agenda, say it. Say aye.
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 All opposed?
I'm assuming everyone else is opposed?
Yes.
1, 2. All right, raise your hand if you're opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, it fails. New business.
Madam Chairwoman, I'd like to introduce Mark Nielsen, who's the Assistant Director of NVCOG. He'll present to us on a federal raise grant that NVCOG was awarded to assist us in the design phase of the Naugatuck Valley Greenway.
There we go. Good evening. Again, my name is Mark Nielsen with NVCOG. As you're aware, the town of Watertown has been working on building a section of the Naugatuck River Greenway Trail, pretty much from Route 262, Frost Bridge Road, to the Branch Brook at the town line with Thomaston. The town had applied for and received a recreational trails grant from the state of Connecticut. And what we had, a number of these projects are being looked at by other towns in the region, Naugatuck, Waterbury, Watertown, and Thomaston. We were approached first by the city of Waterbury, then we met with the other towns about putting in an application for what's called RAISE money from the USDOT. And the idea was that we would combine all the projects, all the sections that are in the works under one project and to do a request funding to do the design for all sections along that corridor between Naugatuck and Thomaston. We've submitted the application. We received support letters from each of the municipalities who are in favor of the application. We were actually awarded the dollars to do this. The RAISE program under USDOT is a very, very competitive program. There's like 500 applications submitted each year. And they maybe award 120 or so, and we're fortunate to be one of those awardees. So what we're asking for tonight is, as I mentioned, in Watertown, you do have a project that's about to go underway. And what we'd like to do is bring up the concept of rolling that into our project so we can do all 4 towns at the same time under this RAISE program. The other idea is that the Rec Trails grant that you did receive is not going to be sufficient to do the full design as intended. This project would supplement any of the RAISE money and any local dollars that are being committed into completing the design fully. And that means doing all the environmental work, all of the public outreach, all of the final documents that would be required. Also under this program, we also want to do the design for the section south from Frost Bridge Road toward the city of Waterbury, and then continue the design into Waterbury and then Naugatuck, and then going north, doing the 2 sections that are being looked at in Thomaston. So that's essentially what we want to do is just begin the discussion about this project. We've been conversations with Jerry, and he's been on the committee that has been looking at this for a while now. And like I said, the intent is to try to do one project out of this instead of, because that section from Naugatuck up to Thompson, we've identified like 15 separate sections that can get kind of unwieldy when we're trying to look at all these little pieces. So this idea is to tie everything all together under one project. NVCOG would serve as the fiduciary of the program and administer all the grant. So our staff would do a lot of the work of administering the contract, and that would also relieve the town from actually having to do that under the rec trail. So we think it's a very good win-win for all the 4 towns that are involved. And in terms of timing, we have not received, final authorization from Federal Highway to begin the project, but we're doing our due diligence to get them moving and to get the agreements in place. And we're doing all the pre-work, requests for qualifications for consultant firms to do the design. We're doing all the project scoping and getting everything ready. So once we get that authorization, we can, solicit consulting firms to do the work so we can just, hit the ground running, as it were. We've gotten information from Federal Highway that they're hoping to make a formal announcement at the end of July, and it'd probably be 3 months to get all the agreements in place. So we're hoping actually to begin this project, sometime in maybe November of this year. And even though we're dealing with a lot of moving parts, we are going to set priorities for the sections in the region that are sort of more ready to go. And that's including the section that I just talked about in Watertown between Frostbridge Road up to Branch Brook. We've also had discussions with Mayor Hess down in Naugatuck, because he's very interested in a section in his town that runs sort of to Breen Field in the southern part of the town. And we've also assured him that, no, we're going to fast track those sections so we can get everything done as quickly as possible. With that, like I said, we just wanted to introduce ourselves, make you aware of the project. We're here to answer any questions and, allay any concerns anybody might have. Like I said, we've been working through Jerry and with Mark's office as well on this project. And that's basically all I have to say. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
I do, Mayor.
Yes, here.
With some of the part of the program we already had started, we already got approval from the state and federal government.
Right.
Now, will we get penalized at all for?
No, the next step we're going to do, and like I said, there's a lot of moving parts in this. It's a little bit of a unique, innovative approach that we're proposing. And the next step is we are going to be meeting with Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, who awards the Rec Trails grant, to make sure they're on board. We had some initial discussions with them last year before we submitted the application, and they were pretty much in favor of us doing this kind of thing, where your Rec Trails dollars would then be assigned to us and rolled into our project, so we would take over that design. And there would not be any penalties to the town at all. And that's the last piece of the puzzle that we have to get final approval for, but we're pretty sure they'll see the benefit of, basically, because Naugatuck has a Rec Trails grant, Waterbury has a Rec Trails grant, Thomaston also has a Rec Trail. And in all 4 instances, the money was not sufficient to do full design. So through this program, by leveraging that Rec Trails dollars, we can get to that finish line of full design plans. We don't know when we're going to be able to construct, but we'll have the designs all set, basically on the shelves when funding for construction becomes available. And when we make applications for construction dollars, they'll look much more favorably when we don't have to do design. We'll know everything that we have to do, and we'll know what any kind of rights of way that might be involved. So that's our intent.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, through the chair. Let's say you do get this done, and it's completed. Who maintains it for?
Well, again, this is only for the design. The way the way the trail program works, the towns become the owner and maintainer of the trails. You take on that responsibility. Even if state and federal dollars are used to construct, the town has the obligation of maintaining it as they would like a local road that is rebuilt with some state dollars or things like that. But yeah, that would be the responsibility of the town.
Thank you.
Mayor, through the chair.
Yes.
By adding these communities together, Is there any chance that our portion of it is going to get slowed down because of somebody
No,
else's?
that's why I want to assure you tonight is that because your project is further along, more advanced, and we've been working with the town for, oh God, I don't know how many years, at least 3 or 4 years on that section, because there's a lot of issues involved, because it's going to be located on top of the Waterbury water main. So we've had conversations with, the Waterbury's water department on that. They're in favor of the project and feel that it would be beneficial. We've been working on this for a number of years, so we recognize that, yeah, you guys are getting real close to getting going on this, and we're not going to slow anything down. And that's why I said, even though it's going to be one project, we're not going to say, oh, we got to have this whole 15-mile section designed before we can advance. No, we've identified the priorities. Like I said, this section in Watertown is a priority. The section in Naugatuck is a priority. The town of Thomaston, around their water treatment plant, we have a preliminary design pretty much done for a section. It's been held up because the DOT doesn't want us to build something that sort of just starts and goes nowhere. And even though we have plans to go into Watertown, they're holding it up. But again, that's ready to go. It's going to be a priority to finish those design plans. So no, we're not going to slow you up at all. And we're hoping that this is actually going to advance things more quickly because we can get the designs fully done, fully vetted, and ready to go.
Thank you.
Through the chair. Yeah. So you have all the money you need for the design phase
Yes.
at this point? And so then the next thing would be the construction?
Correct.
And is there any money for that, or that's a whole nother?
That's a whole nother.
Okay, all right, that's what I thought, yeah.
But the good news, well, I shouldn't say good news, but the optimistic news is this program under the US DOT called RAISE is authorized for 5 years. We're in year 3. We're prepared and are sort of anticipating that if we can get the design done, under this project, we'll, recommend towns apply for a round of RAISE money in 2 years. And again, you're going to be in a lot better position because the design will be done, and you can sort of show the continuity between a RAISE project that was funded already going for additional dollars to construct. It's more likely it's going to be there. It's an optimistic position because the problem with these trails, I started working on a trail project in Trumbull in 1991. So I know how long these things take. It is built, but it's not done, but it's 16 miles out of a trail of about 18 miles is pretty much done. If you ever get a chance to get down to Trumbull, it's the Quantic Valley. That was, a project that I had started years ago, and it just takes some time. It's hard, these projects are nice, a lot of people like them, but they're also viewed a little bit as a luxury, so it's sometimes hard to compete with, education and, things like that we've heard about tonight. That's why we're here. We're trying to, find the money for you to help you out to get the money to design and then construct. So you don't have to sort of go it alone. But right now, we're not sure exactly where the money's coming from to construct, but this will put us in a much better position to request.
I don't know if you know this, but isn't there evidence that towns that have these types of rail trails, it increases home values?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, okay.
We did a study of 2015, 2016 with an economic impact of multi-use trails, and the results are really startling. One, from a health point of view, because trails tend to be, nice social places for people to go, more people are willing to get out and just walk on the trail because it's, it's not like having to go to a gym, where you feel a little bit of like you're maybe out of place. It's a good place for a lot of people to go, walk, and they get their exercise, and it actually helps their health, and that we found has a health benefit. Economically, it does help raise property values. It also encourages some economic development towns. Businesses will locate along a trail. I don't know if I should say unfortunately or fortunately, but one of the phenomenons that have occurred is breweries have opened up along trails. It's amazing the number that are actually located. There's one near, on the Cheshire Farmington Canal. I think that's in Southington actually, but there's a brewery right there, and it's they get phenomenal business. And yes, so there is some economic impact to this. It makes the town, they're perceived a little bit better when they do have a trail like this, because they do become very popular. So it's.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
A question, sir.
Oh, sure. Yes.
Ideally and optimistically, let's say, from north to south, our leg onto Naugatuck's, and Naugatuck seems to jump full bore into this.
Right.
A lot of, Mayor Hess is all for it. Then we go further south. Recently in the media, that the section of the trail was completed from Seymour south down into Ansonia and Derby.
Yes, Ansonia has completed several sections. Seymour is still working on a section to connect their downtown with Ansonia.
So my question was, ideally and optimistically, when would the completion date be for this? How many years? Give me a rough guess.
A lot. I hesitate. Like I said, I worked on the one in Bridgeport, Trumbull, and Monroe, and that literally took 15, 20 years. And that was it was built on an old abandoned rail line, so rights of way was a little bit easier to come up with. They do take a long time, but we're getting there.
Part two to my question would be, how would you account for the success of the linear trail from south from Southington through Cheshire on into Hamden?
Yep.
A very successful linear trail.
Yep.
What is the difference, you think?
Again, the Farmington Canal Trail started sooner and many years ago. They also had the right-of-way sort of defined because it was on the old canal path. So it made things a little bit easier to build because you didn't have to worry about going through neighbors' front yards because that becomes an issue. You didn't have to acquire the property. And quite honestly, there was a group that was formed that really pushed and promoted the Farmington Canal. So, but having that tow path in sort of well established, really made it easier to build. That's why a lot of these things are on abandoned rail lines because it got started back in the late 80s where former freight rail lines were being abandoned and advocates really said, well, let's use these for a trail, and really, rip up the track and the ties, and then you have a nice walking path, and that's how it sort of spurred this many, many years ago. So our region is going to be a challenge, but we are making good progress. Again, it's a 44-mile section that we're looking at from Torrington down to Derby. We have sections built in Derby, sections in Ansonia has been very active the last couple of years building, through there. They're just going to be receiving some federal dollars to construct north of downtown up.
Thank you, sir. So ideally, it's been piecemeal, and there's no idea as to when this could be completed.
I wish I could.
Thank you.
But again, I think that this design effort is going to help that piecemeal because we are going to get the design for a 16-mile portion of this trail. And I think that's going to help and hopefully, get things moving.
Thank you. We appreciate you bringing us up to date on all of it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And like I said, any questions or comments you want to make, just go through Jerry or Mark and they'll get them to me. And
I think we have another comment.
If you don't mind, one more question. So we are 3 years into a 5-year window of opportunity for the raise funds.
Yes.
What length of time do you anticipate? What range of time would it take to complete the design phase?
I want to be aggressive, but realistic. I've put in a 30-month project timeline, but that's for all 15 sections that we're looking at. I'm anticipating that if we can get started on the design for this Watertown section, I'm looking at a design of maybe 12 months. So if we can actually get started in November of this year, it would be November of next year would be the completion of the design of this section. But there are 2 sections in Waterbury that are going to be really difficult and really complex to deal with because they run along the flood wall by the Waterbury Industrial Commons facility. A lot of issues that we're going to have to deal with, brownfield sites, things like that. Those are the ones that are going to be pushed out, closer to the end of that 30-month time period. But this project, I'm looking at 12 months completion.
And have you identified right-of-way issues on
No.
private land in Watertown, Oakville?
Not yet, and that's going to be part of the design.
Okay.
The section between Frostbridge Road and the Branch Brook, there is no right-of-way issue involved. There may be a couple of minor ones. When you look at right-of-way maps, there's a couple of these triangle pieces that who knows who owns it. But like I said, most of it is on the Waterbury easement, Waterbury water main easement, and we've already contacted the department. They're on board with granting us a right-of-way for that. Heading south, I don't know. That's where we're going to identify if there's any rights-of-way needs.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we're all set.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time.
Move on to item B.
I make a motion to postpone item B under new business.
Do we have a second? Second. And we'll postpone this till our next meeting?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman. Yes, I'd like to postpone this to the next meeting. We actually would like to prepare a resolution for your review. I wasn't able to get enough detail into that resolution by the end of today, and I'd like to present that fully to you next meeting.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? Motion passes unanimously. Item C is our Park and Rec Department.
Good evening. Madam Chair, Town Council, I'm Michael Gainham, Director of Parks, Recreation, Crestbrook Park Golf Course, Senior, and Social Services. I'm honored and thrilled to provide a report to you this evening. But before I report to you, I'd like to thank you for your public service. I have witnessed to date that the 5 divisions of the Parks, Recreation, Crestbrook Park Golf Course, Senior, and Social Services are well represented by some of the finest team members in the industry. In fact, a few of them are here this evening. Each member of the team's commitment, enthusiasm, and professionalism are to be commended. When we work together, be it as a divisions being presented tonight or with other town departments, charitable foundations, and civic and community organizations, we can expect positive results that we can all share. This evening, my report will highlight our recent accomplishments, upcoming activities, initiatives, and special events. I will also take this opportunity to brief the Town Council on the state of grant applications currently under review and the state of the tennis courts at Crestbrook Park. I anticipate attending a future meeting where these may be specific agenda items. Furthermore, the town manager and I have been discussing the development of a 1-, 3-, and 10-year master plan for our facilities, parks, and park features. The Parks and Recreation Commission and Commission on Aging will assist with this plan, and through a variety of public surveys, we will learn the wants and needs of the community. I'm going to present this evening some slides on the departments or the divisions of the Parks and Recreation Department. Our community partners, where do I point this at, Lauren? I'm doing that. Okay, great, thank you. Community partners equal enhanced community programming. There are a lot of events happening all around town. Parks and Recreation is fortunate to work with so many partners. Many events are possible only through generosity of volunteers. I encourage more folks to get involved. Collaborations is something that we're big on. We recently cross-promoted a dog license initiative with the town clerk and Watertown Animal Control. Community benefits, as I have stated to the council before, one of our goals is to interact with every household in one way or another as often as possible. The first division that I'm going to, present to you this evening is Parks. And I want to call to your attention Crestbrook Park Golf Course that will be celebrating 50 years in 2025. We intend to capitalize on this milestone with additional branding and marketing. This nearly 300-acre park is an asset to the town and benefits its economic development. Don't take our word for it. As highlighted on this slide, Crestbrook, great time, well-run public golf course, good value, fun course, nice folks. Recent initiatives that recent and current maintenance tasks include lined additional pickleball courts, landscaping, additional benches, and a rebuild of the stairs on tee number 2. Our facilities are booking up for the summer. We have 62 private reservations to date at our gazebos and our pavilions. We started a pilot program, pilot trash program, carry out what you carry in. We are going to be monitoring that. We've initiated the carry out what you carry in at a few strategic locations. As expected, this program has garnered some feedback. We will be monitoring and tweaking this program through the summer and into the fall. We work with countless community organizations, community associations, leagues, and teams to schedule and log thousands of hours of use on our athletic fields, at our parks, and in our pavilions. Of course, having a significant number of fields, parks, and facilities requires substantial effort and prudent investment to maintain. I'd like to give a shout out to our maintenance crews for all that they do. We are currently taking inventory to serve as inventory of the things that we own at the parks, for example, fencing, guardrails, things like that. We want to take an inventory of all that, which will serve as a baseline for future planning. A priority that we will report to you about at a subsequent meeting is the need to replace the tennis courts at Crestbrook Park. And going back to that other slide, we do have Sylvan Lake Pond open for Sylvan Lake open for swimming this year, swimming this summer, as well as Crestbrook Pool, and we're using the high school as well for open swim. In our recreation division, one of the measurements that we use in the industry to gauge the productivity of a department is by analyzing data. Last fiscal year, our recreation program served over 7,000 registrations. Another measurement, development of new programs. We're always innovating. And we have 44 recently added programs. Our current summer programs have over 1,300 registrants. And at our department head meeting today, I think somebody touched on summer employment, and I want to touch on that as well. We employ 18 lifeguards and 38 counselors, thereabouts, and the benefits of being a summer employee: build strong relationships and lifelong friendships, decision-making skills, enhanced cultural awareness and sensitivity, responsibility, teamwork, selflessness, leadership, management, problem-solving, communication skills, listening, self-awareness, potential career development opportunities, education, or youth work and enjoying outdoor activities in nature. In fact, many of some of the people that are currently working in some of our divisions started out as counselors or lifeguards, so we're pretty proud, very proud about that. Going to our aquatics program, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Gary Smith. Gary is our most senior associate. There's his picture there. He'd be pretty upset if he knew I was going to mention his name tonight, but I do want to acknowledge Gary. We are currently providing swimming at 3 locations, Crestbrook, Sylvan Lake, and at Watertown High School. Many of our swim lesson programs consistently sell out. Social services. We are very fortunate to have many generous donors. Through their generosity, our social services division annually provides thousands of meals, toys, and back-to-school supplies. We are currently have served since January. We had over 1,300 visits to the food bank. 349 clients utilized other services. We have 94 clients were vetted for renters rebates, and the list goes on, and you have the paperwork in front of you as well. Last year, we had a very generous donation from Mr. Wildman, who does, I think, 24 acts of kindness each year. And Mr. Wildman was generous enough to replace the floors at the food bank. So there's a before picture. That's, I think, something got ripped up, and that's the middle picture is before they put some laminate flooring down, new laminate flooring. So that made a big difference. And please help us to thank our generous donors. On our special events, we recently had the night out on Main Street. I recognize some of you from being there the other night. Thank you for coming. We had a great evening. The weather was a little touch and go. In fact, I drove home in the rain, I was a little surprised. So the rain was not far off. We have 19 recently added special events. And some special events that occur from between June and August: the townwide tag sale, the Coolest Canine, Quasi Day bus trip, poker run each week at Veterans Park, summer concert series at the same park that follow the poker run, Friday night movies at the park, nights out on Main Street, pool and foam party at Crestbrook, Korean War Memorial, Battle of the Bands, back to school pencil hunt, and drool in the pool. We receive a lot of sponsors. A lot of businesses are generous to underwrite, let's say, the cost of bands here and there, the cost of some things that we have to utilize to run these special events. We've raised over $12,000 since summer of 2023 towards this end. So please do recognize the sponsors when you run into somebody at the grocery store, at their place of business. Please acknowledge them. At our Falls Avenue Senior Center, some of the recent initiatives that we undertook there where we did some cleaning inside with the carpet, and we planted some flowers, weeding, mulch, power wash the outside and the deck. We had some tree work and fence repairs done, and we purchased a new poker table and new cornhole boards that have received good reviews. Transportation grants for 2024, we applied for a 5310 grant, and that is an 80% of the cost will be covered hopefully by the Connecticut DOT. And we applied to secure a matching grant so we can continue our free Tuesday dial-a-ride. And the ARPA grant, we applied for that grant. We had some changes of deadlines and allocation of funding, so we're working some back channels to try to reinstate that. But the application has been submitted, and we're waiting to hear next steps and diligently working on both of those. Intergenerational collaborations is something that when I presented to you a few times, we want to try to engage our seniors with our younger population. I think that it serves the community in so many ways. An example of that is a senior prom hosted by St. John's School. Gratitude breakfast hosted by the students at John Trumbull, a pollinator garden planted by the Girl Scouts, and monthly luncheons cooked and served by Caner Tech students, and Wii Bowling with the Watertown Transition Academy, just some of the things that we do, intergenerational collaborations. Highlights from the past 6 months, several trips, and we have a lot of social and special events and presentations. We are always seeking new members to join the senior center, and we appreciate any feedback from the membership for those that are actively involved. It's very helpful for us. And from there, we make appropriate decisions. In the next 3 months, some upcoming activities through and trips through the senior center, a whole bunch of them. We've got, some of them have already passed, but we've got the Spirit of Boston trip, some luncheons. I'll be at the senior center tomorrow enjoying one of them. I think that's, what's that, the Italian luncheon tomorrow. Be there or be square. And then if you have need any additional information, we have all of these things are on a variety of social media platforms. Oh, and I wanted to mention that Diana Brandt is the assistant coordinator at the Falls Avenue Senior Center. She's a relatively new employee. So when you do stop into the senior center, please stop by and say hello. And you can find us and follow us on these platforms, and all this information, our newsletters and things like that, we try to make very readily available to you.
Right. Anybody have any questions? Yes, Gary?
No, you said you're going to be looking into doing the tennis courts over?
Yes.
Wasn't there like a fund or something left several years ago?
There was John Staver bequested some funds to the town. The town is able to spend the interest off the principal.
Oh.
The principal, it's debatable if the principal can be funded.
Okay.
I noticed you are looking for a new place for the farmer's market.
Yes.
Good idea.
Thank you. We've got our eyes set on one now. We just have to survey the farmers to make sure they can be available on the same day that the location is available.
Do you know why they chose a Sunday? I mean, a Sunday is usually when people go to church, and it's...
I don't know why it was originally scheduled for a Sunday. It could have been a variety of reasons, including that there's some competitive, or maybe at the time where markets competing during different other days of the week.
Right.
So before we can settle on a day, we need to survey some of the local markets, which that's going to be a fun road trip for me. And others will take a ride and we'll hand cards we'll solicit farmers essentially.
Yeah.
I've gotten mixed feedback about that. I had one farmer said that Sundays were great for them. They make
that's
more,
good.
they do better on Sundays. But the location that we have considered or are currently considering, Sunday's not going to work for that particular location.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to item D.
I move that the proposed revisions to the transfer station and recycling center fee schedule be approved effective September 1st, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I have a question. In looking at this chart, I'm not really differentiating between what was past prices and the current. Is the red the current price, and the black the proposed pricing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? The motion passes unanimously. Item E.
I move that the town council authorize an appropriation from the general fund in the amount of $20,000 for the Wilson Street paving project. Funds received from Eversource as a cost share of this project.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Item F.
I move that the firm of Cinnamon and Associates LLC Certified Public Accountants be appointed to conduct the fiscal year ending June 2024 per their bid dated June 17th, 2024.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mark?
So we have fully vetted Mr. Cinnamon and his company. So a couple of things. I think that the finance department and the town manager's office has been very forthcoming in the problems that we've gone through on the finance department for a lot of reasons. I put this in a letter. I was very specific in what I wrote, identifying as the problems that I saw. Moving forward, the importance of putting an auditor in place now as opposed to waiting to try and go after a other firm that may be acceptable to people who are not in the conversations would be a difficult, it would put the town in a difficult position. The auditors usually start in June, gathering the information, sitting with the town and going through the process of what information will be pulled. So we actually met with this company today and we wanted to identify that we're starting late into July. Will they be able to try and work towards obtaining that December date? And frankly, that's going to be our goal, but will we be able to meet that date of filling the December or November? I don't remember the date off the top of my head. I'm not sure, but we're being open about it. We've identified the problems. We've elicited a company to come in and help us look at our policies and review that, and we're committed to making the changes. I think that waiting for another firm, Cinnamon and Associates was the only auditing firm that responded to our bid process. I personally called several auditing firms and said, we would like you to bid on our process. And everybody pretty much said, we don't have the room in our firms. So we would have liked one of the other companies to come in to kind of look at this, to kind of give us, just put an end to the conversation and let us move forward. We are very confident that this auditing firm is going to come through, work with us, and we're going to come out on the other end back to where everybody is confident in the work that the finance department is doing. Everybody stumbles, and we've stumbled, but we've picked up the ball and we're moving it forward. And this has not been kept quiet. It's been put out in public, and I think that it's in the best interest of the town to allow us to move forward with the plan that we've put in place, utilize our auditor. If at the end of the year we're not satisfied with the work of this auditor, we have an option to go out again. But for us to wait and put this out to bid again in hopes to get somebody else, and basically we're putting a fishing net out to get another company that then we have to vet. When do we get started in our audit? August, September? We won't be able to complete what we want to accomplish. So it's my recommendation that we accept Cinnamon and Associates to move forward. The town has the guidance of CLA to, review our procedures, and we're committed to doing the work so that everybody in our community is satisfied with the work of our finance department. So I strongly recommend that we approve this tonight. I don't have all the answers. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding this firm. I would do the best I can to answer those questions.
Mark, can we ask them for a letter that everybody's talking about that points out any of our weaknesses? We can ask for that, can't we?
Absolutely, we can. And I think that any auditor, I don't want to comment directly to our current audit, but I believe there's a reference to a managerial letter in our current audit that was done by King & King. I just can't recall clearly enough to correct that statement. But I believe we do have a managerial letter in our last audit. I'd have to look back to make sure. And again, the auditor is there to help us and ensure that we have our controls in place. And if there is something wrong, we want it identified so we can correct it. So we would encourage Cinnamon and Associates to write a managerial letter if they feel that our controls or something is so wrong that it needs to be documented so that we could address it moving forward.
Good. Anybody have any questions? Gary?
Yeah. Two questions. Did we get everything back from King that we, for the town, all town information and records? We got all the information from the previous year. all the,
What information, I'm
I
not,
mean, because we're starting with a new auditing firm. I didn't know if we had all the, if we had to get anything back from them that, they might have held up or something like that.
no, King and King has completed our audit. I don't believe that they've had any direct material that they would have withheld from us, but any material that's produced is produced by our finance department. So I would say yes, we have everything back, they've completed the job, and we've actually had some questions since they've completed that job, and they've been very responsive to help us as we transition from them as an auditor to a new auditor.
All right, and the one question about the new auditing firm, right? I know there are 3 references. They just gave us 3 small towns up in the northwest corner. I didn't know if they were, if they dealt with any bigger towns like size of Watertown.
So that's actually a very good question. Thank you for asking that. So actually, when we put the RFP out and they responded, Mr. Cinnamon called the town, and he basically says that he's worked with mostly smaller towns, and he wanted to know if he would be excluded from bidding on this process. And we discussed how he would attack the job, and basically, he is a principal who does a lot of the work, and we talked about whether his firm can actually handle Watertown's business with the additions to the small towns. He assured me that they are fully capable and have access to personnel to complete the audit. So that was a discussion point that was had, and again, it was brought up by the accounting firm.
Yeah.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Mark, can you please speak to the process by which King and King separated from us? I was maybe mistakenly under the impression that we had a 23 to 24 contract with them.
So there was one year left on our agreement for them to be our auditor. With all the discussions and public discussions and public perception, as we were going to separate with King and King, they thought it was in their best interest to separate from us, and we had a discussion about it, and we agreed. I feel that King and King worked for the town. The work that they've done for the town was, they did what they were supposed to do. Could they have been more, aggressive towards the town and put more aggressive language in the managerial letter? In hindsight, I would say probably I would have liked that because it would have gave us clearer guidance earlier. But they felt the improvement that the town made during the issues that came up, we were working towards the end goal. And that's my perspective. I don't know the proper terminology, and I'm not supporting King and King in any way. But I feel that they fulfilled the obligation for the town. They thought it was in their best interest to separate because at some point, we may want to do business with them again. I don't know. Never burn a bridge.
And just one more question. How do the fees between the 2 firms compare?
So I apologize. I was trying to look for that information before I came to the meeting. I think that Cinnamon Associates is a few $1,000s less than King and King, but I couldn't put my finger on those numbers before I came down tonight.
I believe it's 11% decrease in the cost.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion passes unanimously.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing tax refunds.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone abstaining or opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
I'm not sure what's missing there.
I think we need a motion to authorize it. There's usually a second motion.
I move to authorize
The transfer.
the transfer of tax refunds.
We have a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. That's it. We need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Everyone that would like to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Recording stopped.